This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by the law offices of Tunnell and Raysor.
We learned yesterday on Delmarva Life that having a will and making sure it's updated is more important than one might think. Christophe Emmert of Tunnell and Raysor encouraged us that a little work now can save a lot of headaches in the future. Today we continue that conversation by getting educated on the probate process.
There's a lot of confusion about what the probate process entails and frankly what the word even means. It varies a little bit state to state, but generally speaking, there is a creditor claim period after someone has passed, and then there is a process where we open the estate, inventory the assets, and then as we're closing the estate, we do a final accounting to show what assets have gone out of the estate in expenses and things like that, and also any money that's come into the estate before it can be closed by the authority and distributed out to the heirs.
So who typically is involved in the probate process?
Generally, a loved one will come to us after they have experienced a loss, and will bring a death certificate and maybe an original will, and then we will help them through the process.
How soon should the executor approach you guys?
There's a statute in Delaware that requires that the will is filed within 10 days of someone passing. That often is impractical, however, because it's very often the case that they don't find the original will until longer after that period has lapsed. But it's important to be as timely as possible.
Is it an emotional process to walk through with people?
They are wrought with emotion after losing a loved one, and they're dealing with their own grief and having to begin the process of administering someone's assets and handling their affairs can seem overwhelming. But we are skilled in knowing what the filings are, how to complete those requirements and the filings, and hold your hand and remind you of those deadlines as they approach.
Do you typically see a lot of family disagreements, arguments during this time?
There can be blended families, there can be different dynamics between full siblings, and sometimes people are not happy with what they're receiving.
How do you kind of help throughout that process?
Okay. We are often asked to assist with communication between parties, between family members or friends, because they may not have great communication or any communication, and there may be some disagreements about the documents and who received what under the will or through beneficiary designations.
What are the kinds of things that are going to be figured out in probate? Is it house? Is it money? Is it?
The first step in probate is to open the estate formally. The next step in the process is an inventory, and that is a snapshot of what someone owns at the time that they pass. That can include real estate, bank accounts, investments, and personal property as well. It also inventories assets that are jointly held with someone else. So not only are the individual assets shown, but any jointly held assets, be it real estate owned with a spouse or a child, or joint bank accounts, those are all shown on the inventory. And that is what the Register of Wills will look at to see how to assess the probate estate.
So I feel like it sounds like communication is super important with the whole process.
Really, the important thing when naming an executor and serving as an executor is to be very transparent, to document everything, to communicate with the accountant and the attorney that you've hired to help through the process, and to make sure that if there is a question that arises or a problem, that it's communicated so that we can deal with it and handle that situation and make sure that everything will be taken care of.
Yeah, so what's final accounting?
A final accounting is the final piece before an estate is closed and the assets can be distributed out to the heirs. The final accounting shows not only any additional assets that have come into the estate since the inventory was completed. That can include refunds especially from insurance companies or maybe from taxes. It can also show any income if there was a rental property or a receipt of life insurance policy or something like that. Also any funeral expenses. That's really important to document because we subtract those expenses from the value of the estate before any probate fee might be applied. Once the accounting is approved, then the executor is able to distribute the money to the heirs. So oftentimes we have executors contacting us saying, when can I give money out? And we really have to wait for that sign-off sheet so that the estate is closed and the executor is off the hook, and we know that everything is good before the money is distributed out.
If you have any questions about any of the will or probate concepts we've had conversations about, Christophe and the rest of the Tunnell and Raysor team is extremely knowledgeable. You can find their contact information on our website, delmarvalife.com.